And for me, it really was about changing the trajectory of my family and the history of my family. I heard you talk about your TED talk. I did a TEDx Harlem talk. Um, in my TEDx talk, I did talk about how to build life legacy and brand legacy. And what I talked about was me being the first legal entrepreneur in my family. And for a lot of people, they can understand what that means. I have a lot of hustle in my blood from my dad.
Like you said, legal entrepreneur. I heard that.
You heard me, and you know exactly, and everybody feels that. I mean, so I got the hustle from my dad, but you know, he was on the other side of the law.
Mm.
But they have the same skills, but don't have the right influence because it's still about hustle and marketing and economics and customer base and doing what's right. And so I feel like we as Black and brown people always have the skill, the talent, but we don't have is the a way to formally monetize our skills. I mean, how many people you know making uh, good dinners and fish fries and can braid hair? You know, we always do the most. We can do everything with nothing. We make something out of nothing all the time. And so for me, not really knowing what I was doing when I started, my goal is really about how to help my Black and brown family and community members monetize their skills, not to only create a business, but a transferable business. I know you and I talked behind the scenes about not just having a business, but having a business that you can gift to your child or
Yeah.
will to your child and transfer. And so
Mhm.
these are things that I didn't know when I started because I just started to get to the money.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we all start. I started my business, my first business, 5001 Flavors, in 1992 at a college dorm room at Columbia University. I was a junior. I was 20 years old. I was on a typewriter. I didn't even have a computer. I had a typewriter with no correction. I had a whiteout. I made an invoice. I submitted to Uptown Records and started my business with my, you know, then boyfriend, now husband. And so 33 years later, my custom clothing company, 5001 Flavors, has grown into a multi-brand, multi-generational enterprise.
So let's talk about that. So you started out with 5,001 flavor, 5,001 was
Yes.
five, okay, flavors. Then you went to where? So give us a timeline of all of the brands and how they came from each other, because what people what sometimes what people try to do is they try to start off with multiple brands, right? They try to start off with because you know the Bible says we should have seven, no, eight revenue streams in case of disaster strikes. So we should all have other revenue streams, you know, investments and things like that. But people try to do too much. And one thing I tell people is become the subject matter expert at one thing, and then it will open up the door to all these other things. So I want you to kind of go through the timeline of, you know, starting 5001 flavors and then how all the other things came about.
Absolutely. So in 1992, I was going to school at Columbia University. I was sociology, which was pre-law. I definitely wanted to be a lawyer. You know, back watching the Cosby Show, was either lawyer or a doctor. You didn't really have anything outside, you know, of aspiring to be anything. I lived right above the law school, and I was like, these kids do not look activated. So I was kind of questioning why I was there and what I was doing. And like I said, my husband guy was always he was my I was dating him then, but very fashionable, and literally came to me one day and was like, I think I have an idea, like we should start a business. We started 5001 Flavors after him going to some industry shows, and parties, and getting recognitions for how he looked. And so we started out with styling. And so 5001 Flavors is a custom clothing company that caters to various personalities in the entertainment industry.